In this lesson, we're going to be looking at our featured testimonial section. Again, this looks pretty simple with a photo on the left and some content on the right. But what we're going to be doing is constraining that text and that content in our right-hand area so it doesn't fully go full width. The other thing that we want to look at in this lesson is how to stop a column from totally disappearing when it has nothing in it or just a background color or background image. We've got a couple of little tips in here, so let's jump into Oxygen. So now it's time to create this testimonial block. It's a fairly simple one. I'm looking at the XD layout here, but there are, again, a couple of nice little tricks that I want to show you here. One of them is controlling the minimum size for a background image and how that stacks on mobile mode. Also using the before and afters and getting these borders to display like that. So let's get stuck in there. And like always, I'm going to grab this text while I'm here, and then I'm going to jump in to Oxygen. So first thing that we'll notice is that this is actually 100% width. So we need to do what we normally do here and make this testimonial block here, going to size and spacing, and change that from page width to full width. Now we can give it a background color. So we can go to primary and put that light gray background in. The next thing we want to do is put columns in there. So we'll go to add, columns, and what we want here is more like a 60-40 split. Again, you'll see that there's some padding here by default, and we want to get rid of this. So we can just drag this stuff out, go into advanced, size and spacing, and get rid of this padding here too. All right, now what we're going to want in here is a background image on this div. So we can put that in pretty quickly by going to advanced, background, browse for the image. Again, we're going to upload one. Homepage client feedback. Select that image. Do what we need to do. Cover, left, 50%, top, 50%. Got our background image in. Now we want to start putting in some text, but I want to have this so it's contained. The width here of this whole area is contained. So I'm going to create a div inside of this. So let's go add, div. I'm going to put in my heading. And let's make this about a heading 4. Then I'm going to put in another heading, which will make a heading 6. We'll get this text here. And lastly, we'll get our block of text here and add that in as a text block. Now, a couple of things you will notice. On our XD file here, the actual text for our headings is not the same fonts and not the same colors, so we want to match that pretty quickly. So we'll go here, we'll make sure we change that text color to the blue. We know that the font weight is a lot thicker here. So we'll go to this 800. That's actually not the Hebo that we are using here. So what we're doing is actually just overriding these header styles. Again, this one is not actually Hebo, it is Poppins. That looks fine. And with this, we've got everything right. I just want to make sure this div is actually not full width like that. I want to give this a bit of, a tightness here and give it some space around here. So what I'm going to do is go into advanced, size and spacing. I'm going to put a fair bit of margin on this. So maybe say even 60 pixels, and along the top, quite a lot more. So 80 and 80. And I don't want that to be actually that wide. So I'm going to put a max width on here of say 400 pixels. And that's looking pretty good. I can just put some extra padding under here or margin. And with this one here, this heading, what I'm actually going to do is create this line as a part of the underline of this heading. So what we can do is go to state, before, and we have done this in our tutorial already, but this is doing it in the real world. So we'll go to before, we'll go into layout, we'll make sure this is set as block. Then we can do a few things like the background color. We're going to make the background color the green. We'll go into size and spacing. We'll give it, say, a width of 140 pixels. And we've got a height of, say, 10 pixels. And we've done this on the before. I actually wanted this on the after. So what I want to do is delete that and do it again. So I'll go to the after and do the same thing. We wanted that to be 140, 10. Our layout is block. And our background was green. Now the last thing we really want to do under size and spacing is give this a bit of margin, because that's all a little bit too close. So if we go, say, from the top, we might want 20 pixels, and from the bottom we want a little bit more, 30 pixels. Click Save, refresh our page here, scroll down, and that's actually not too bad. And there's a couple of things we still need to do, which is getting these borders on the top and the bottom. So if we have a look in our XD file, we've got this border along the bottom and a border along the top. So we're just going to copy that look here. So we go to this actual div here, and we'll go to Advanced, Borders, make sure we're only editing the top, and we've got a green border. It is solid, and we give it a width of, say, 10 pixels. We do the same on the other div, but down at the bottom. We go to Advanced, Borders, make sure we're editing the bottom. This one is the color blue. Same thing, 10 and solid. And we've got our border on there. Now if we click Save, and then we start to look at a couple of things that I wanted to point out, which is the mobile mode. So we know with columns that it will stack, and what do we have our columns stacking at here? Anything under 992, it's going to stack vertically. So if we have a look at 992, you can see that that stacks vertically. At the 1120, that's still fine, that's legible, there's enough space around everything, that's okay. If we go into our 992, you can see there's a couple of things that aren't working very well. And one of them is that this image basically collapses to nothing. Now we could change this on each mode for, the mobile settings or the breakpoints, or we can go to all devices and change this here and just give this a minimum height. So we can select the div and go into size and spacing and give it, say, a minimum height of 280 pixels as a guide. And now, as we go down to these smaller sizes, we'll see, yeah, that actually looks pretty good. Now you could adjust each one, and it depends on how you feel that is looking, but I actually think that looks pretty good at all of those sizes. There's a few things wrong with this text, especially the spacing. So I'm going to go out to the area where I need to actually tweak this. Even here, some of this spacing is not looking great. So some of the things that I need to change on this in this div here is we want to make sure that this is our size and spacing. Our max width is actually 100%. And our margins, we want them to be even. So let's make this something like 40 around all of these. And we go down to these breakpoints. That's looking pretty good. And on mobile, that's looking pretty good. We might want to change the actual font size, which I might do right now actually. I'll do this on here. I'll drop this one down a little bit to something like 48 pixels to 30 pixels. We can see that's looking better on mobile. Go back up. And that looks pretty good. Click refresh and just make sure we're happy with that. Great. It was a tricky one, but we got there. Now we have that testimonial section completed. So click complete lesson and I'll see you in the next one.